Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. I'm Carly Riley, and today's weekly recap episode is a little different than our usual episode because we are launching a new segment here on Overpriced JPEGs. It won't be every week, at least to start, but it'll be frequently, and that is our new segment, A Moment of Zeneca. So this is, as some of you may know, as some of you may have be able to predict based on that name, we are doing a recurring segment with Zeneca33 where he gives market updates, talks about what's happening from a macro perspective in NFTs, looks at specific projects that are doing well, are doing poorly, really walks us through the last couple of weeks in NFT land when we talk. So in my initial conception of this would be a segment that would go for 10 minutes and then I would proceed with my usually scheduled programming, which is to talk through what I'm seeing in the NFT space for the week, give you the update on what's happening. But I should have known better because I love talking to Zeneca. And as it so happens, as we started talking, we ended up covering pretty much everything I planned to talk about on this recap episode. We covered by just chatting together, which honestly is a more fun way to go for me than sitting alone here with my microphone. So I think this entire episode this week is just one big segment of A Moment of Zeneca. So with that all said, we're going to have a word from our sponsor, and then we're going to kick off our brand new segment, A Moment of Zeneca, with Zeneca33.
Axie Infinity is a game universe filled with cute, fascinating little creatures called Axies that players can collect as pets. Players aim to battle, breed, collect, raise, and build kingdoms for their Axies. There are and will be many varied gaming experiences for Axies, many of them having players compete with each other using complex strategies and tactics to attain top rankings or be rewarded with coveted resources. Others will have them complete quests, defeat bosses, and unlock in-depth storylines. There are countless unique Axies that players can collect with varying body parts and experiences. The Axie universe is a player-owned economy where the players can truly own, buy, sell, and trade the resources they earn in the game through skilled gameplay and contributions to the ecosystem. It's a digital nation where people come together globally with their Axies to play, earn, and live. Join the Axie revolution at axieinfinity.com/bankless. POLYGON is Ethereum's largest and most vibrant scaling solution to date. With millions of monthly users and all of the biggest DeFi apps, the POLYGON ecosystem has turned into a blossoming metropolis of DeFi activity. Transactions on POLYGON are quick and cheap, allowing users the freedom to achieve their DeFi goals, all while being economically anchored to Ethereum. But POLYGON isn't just the proof-of-stake sidechain. The POLYGON team is building a suite of scaling solutions, including POLYGON Hermes, Maiden, Nightfall, and Zero, all with different design choices in order to be optimized for all possible crypto use cases. If you're a developer who wants to build on the POLYGON ecosystem, go to the link in the show notes to check out their fantastic documentation. And if you're a user who just wants to experience fast and cheap DeFi, you can bridge over your ETH or other tokens and start playing around with any of the thousands of applications that are available on POLYGON.
All right. And now, A Moment of Zeneca. Zeneca, this is our first time doing this segment. I'm so excited. Everybody who listens to the show knows how much I love your wisdom in this space. So I couldn't be more thrilled to have you on here.
I'm excited to be here.
Plan to be on a more recurring basis.
Yeah, I listen to the show. I'm a fan of it. So to be on it, it's great. I love it.
I love it too. Well, let's dive right in. So most of us know NFTs are up. Been a good couple of weeks.
NFTs go boom.
But yeah. NFTs go boom. Why is it going to last? Talk us through how we should be thinking about this. Call it a bull run.
Yeah. It's safe to call it a bull run, I think. The first few days, whenever prices go up, I'm always reluctant to say it's a bull run because it could just be some short-term spike. But it's been pretty much 2 weeks now. So we're recording this on the 13th January. Basically, it was as soon as the new year hit, it just went crazy. I think part of it was probably because people were done like tax loss harvesting. That was just a thing that we saw a lot in the NFT space towards the end of last year, which it happened a lot more than I was anticipating. Like just a lot of people were like, realizing huge losses and a lot of prices were tanking and there was not a lot of people wanting to buy things. And then, so at the beginning of the bull market, I was like, that's probably the number one catalyst. And obviously gas wasn't too crazy, which always helps. And ETH had sort of been sitting around the same price, which also helps. I think if ETH is pumping, generally NFTs are not. If ETH is tanking, also generally NFTs don't pump. They wait for ETH to settle and then they tank. So when ETH is sort of, trending sideways, that's when we've historically largely seen NFTs go crazy. And that's sort of what we saw. Like a lot of the price of ETH was very stagnant for most of December and first little bit of January. Obviously it crashed a lot since then, but I think those were the three main catalysts that I was initially aware of, like stable ETH, lowish gas, and tax loss harvesting season over. But sort of I then became aware of like a new sort of phenomenon a few days later, which is it seems like Asia, like the Asian market has really turned up and enter the NFT space in a way that we perhaps haven't really seen before. And obviously, it's an enormous market, tons of people, tons of money. So with that flowing into the NFT space, it is just an extra catalyst. And I think the most obvious example of that is the PhantaBear project.
Yeah, I haven't been super tracking this. So tell me, I know it like surpassed CryptoPunks, I think, in terms of trade volume, but I don't know, give me the PhantaBears story.
Yeah, so it's like a joint collection by two, I'm going to show my ignorance here. I don't know if they're like music stars or movie stars or whatever, but it's Jay Chow and Ezek, like just two huge stars in Asia. And, the collection, I think pretty much largely went under the radar for the majority of people sort of in the West. Like it just sort of came up out of nowhere seemingly. And the floor kind of quickly rocketed to like 0.5 ETH. And then just over the course of like 4 days, it went like 0.5 to 2, 2 to 4.5, 4.5 to 7. And it was just like this monumental beast. And I heard people referring it to as like the Bored Ape Yacht Club for Asia and things like that. And it's still today sitting at the number one top volume on OpenSea over the last week, which is, it's more than the Bored Apes, it's more than Doodles. Doodles have been going crazy, and this is more than that. And the floor price has come back down a bit. It's like 4-ish ETH now, but, that's still incredible for a project that largely came out of nowhere. And yeah, I think that got a lot of people excited, the market excited, and then a lot of that money has also flowed elsewhere. And it's just a lot of things bullish in the NFT space, yeah.
Or have you bought a PhantaBear? Are you buying PhantaBears?
I am not. So I haven't bought any. I, again, was not really aware of them, but they basically sent me one for free. It's the perks of being an influencer. So
oh wow, get enough followers, folks. And
at around when they were like 0.5 ETH, someone just reached out to me and said, "Hey, the PhantaBears team would like to send you one, no strings attached." And I'd pretty much never heard of them at that point. But like I won't. Yeah. I usually don't turn down just free NFTs, no strings attached. I'm not going to promote it. But if you want to send me something,
attached,
98% of the time they're worthless. They don't do anything. But I guess this is the 1 or 2% time where it's. I mean, I still have it. I haven't sold it or anything. I feel weird about selling things that get sent for free. But when it hit at 7 ETH, I was definitely tempted.
I'm starting to get this a little bit too. And a quick side note, like, do you ever feel bad not mentioning a project that sends you something for free?
No, not anymore. Like, no. Well, I never really did, because I always made like a pretty strong point about not doing it. And it's just, I get so many sent these days. It's just like, yeah. Yeah,
I agree. It's definitely a principled point for me. But there are, again, I've just in the last couple of days, like I've had a couple things sent to me and I'm like, oh gosh, like thank you. And
I mean,
I know. And I'm like,
I'm always grateful. And like, if they, like what happens a lot is the project will make like an honorary NFT and then send it to a bunch of people. And I'll just like say thank you and publicly and like, whatever. If I really like the project, then I'll, shout them out a bit more, but it's based on me liking the project and not because they sent something for free.
Right.
Yeah.
I have my own anecdote with the Asian market, which is, and I talked about it on the show. I help work on the Meebits DAO. I help work on Meebits DAO, and we had launched a token a few months ago called MBBT, which was a share in a pool of Meebits. And it was, the idea is that it's like proxy ownership of those Meebits. Mm-hmm. So you can go and use those Meebits in the metaverse or as your profile picture, whatever you want to do. It's supposed to not just be a fraction of them. You're actually supposed to kind of share ownership over Meebits. And so we had these MBBT tokens and there was a liquidity pool set up. And as a promotion we had said, hey, if you buy a general membership token into the Meebits DAO, you get, I think it was like 10 MBBT. Well, somehow this caught the attention of the Asian market, and I think specifically in mainland China, and we were suddenly flooded. I mean, MBBT, it had launched at like $20, or maybe I think it was less than that, and it immediately went to like $75, wow. and it was specifically people from the Chinese market, and now we have all these Chinese moderators in the Discord because a lot of the Discord is this, and they've been writing sort of letters of like, hey, we want clarity on this, and they've been these kind of really well thought out letters that they've given to sort of Meebits DAO leadership. And one said specifically that noted that, the Chinese market is starting to get into NFTs, and that MBBT was this really good bridging ground for them because they're more used to currencies and tokens and like ERC20s. And MBBT sort of was like a token they became drawn to. And then because of that, got really into Meebits. And now they love the look of the Meebits. And so I guess I should have seen that as a harbinger of what was to come a couple months ago when this started happening. But you don't know that something
couldn't have anticipated, I guess.
A microcosm of something that's going to happen.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's clearly going on. And I think it's exciting, obviously, for the
very much so, yeah,
community as a whole.
Yeah, it's great.
You have done an awesome thing historically, which are the daily stats sheets. I think you haven't been posting those publicly as much as of late.
Yeah.
But I was hoping you could give us a rundown, projects worth highlighting, projects that are stumbling surprisingly, a la what you've done historically with your stats sheets. Tell us what you're watching.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. Everything has basically gone up. I think profile picture projects, specifically like COOP PFP projects, have really exploded. So I think beginning with Doodles, they sort of ran up from the 3 to 4 ETH range to like 12 now in the course of maybe 2 weeks, which is insane. And then a lot of people were like, hey, why are Doodles so appealing? And then there's like the cute, the universally appealing aspect, the friendly colorfulness, and then things like Alien Friends really took off. I think they hit like a 4 ETH floor at one point. They've come down quite a bit to like 2.8 now. Cool Man's Universe is another one that has that cutesy vibe. And so we're seeing, I think, a lot of these newer projects sort of that have been sitting in the maybe like the 0.5 to 2 or 3 ETH range really take off this bull run. Obviously, like Bored Apes and Mutants and Cool Cats have done well, but it's very difficult for those projects to like 3x, 5x, 10x. Like once you hit a floor of 10 ETH, 15 ETH, 50 ETH, 70 ETH, you're just not going to get those gains anymore. There's not that much capital. And so I think people are now looking to the sort of the newer projects, which are decently well established, have a lot going for them, to just find the next Bored Ape Yacht Club, the next Cool Cats, and now the next Doodles. And so that's why we're seeing it with these. Probably the biggest breakout in the more recent days is World of Women. They went from... So I minted a bunch. I've been selling them over time to just get profits. And then about, I think a week ago, I listed a bunch of like 2.7, 2.8 because, it was pretty high price. I wasn't sure that the market could sustain high prices sort of across the board. It wasn't specific to World of Women. I still think it's a great project. I still have some. But I was like, prices have gone up everywhere. I'm going to take some profits. And then within 3 or 4 days after that, they're up to like 8 ETH now, 7 to 8 ETH. Huge celebrities getting on board. Huge Twitter influencers are getting on board. It's really just captured the zeitgeist, I think. And it's not just World of Women. I think we saw a phenomenon last night, which we've seen a few times, where like women projects, like projects by women, or like focusing in the artwork that are like largely women centric. So World of Women, Boss Beauties, Crypto Chicks, Crypto Covens, and Cryptas. They've like done very well, specifically in the last 24 hours, I guess, but over the last week.
Do you think that was led by the World of Women spike in the news? So Guy Osiri, who reps one of the Bored Apes, is repping World of Women now. And so the trickle down effect from World of Women was these other women projects? Definitely
some element of that, yeah. I think because obviously at 7 or 8 ETH, it's unaffordable for 99.9% of people. But when you have other entry points at much lower price points, if people are looking for a project that's aimed towards women or like with more inclusivity compared to like more of the male dominated centric projects where all the traits are male, then they look for all these other options, and it's probably boosted them a bit. But many of them are doing very well. Boss Beauties have their own thing, like they have a partnership with freaking Marvel, and they've been teasing that. So it's just been, honestly, it's been a great time for most projects. That there hasn't really been too much that's bled. I would say maybe generative art has not been captured in this bull run. It's very much focused on like profile picture projects, gaming projects, metaverse land, those kind of things. And art hasn't really popped off, but we sort of see cycles in the NFT space. Generative art will have its moment, one-on-one art, metaverse land, gaming, profile pictures, and then back and forth, and it just keeps looping around, and attention just shifts from one place to another. And I'm sure that art will have another day in the sun.
Yeah, I have so many reactions to this. One, the first thought I was having as you were talking about cutesy projects doing well is if that might also be connected to the Asian market really entering NFTs. I think of them as like the land of Hello Kitty, and I think of that as being a culture that is at times drawn to sort of the cutesy. Who knows? Speculation. I'm sure you don't have a definitive answer on that either. World of Women is it's just been like a painful week for me. Not actually, because I know my projects have been doing well as well, but it's that feeling of like, oh, but I could be doing better.
Right, yeah.
World of Women, I sat in this exact seat when World of Women was 0.1 and was like, I don't know. Like I still, and I've talked about this on the show, it's funny given that I do this show, but like I have a hard time pulling trigger on projects because I hate losing money.
Yeah.
And it is so speculative. And I am somebody who tends to be very bullish on ETH. So to like trade ETH for a project is like, I'm like, oh, you know, and I wasn't somebody who got into, you know, in January where I couldn't help but become a millionaire or whatever. And so yeah, I passed on World of Women and now of course I'm like kicking myself.
Yeah.
And that was Garyvee had been big pushing World of Women kind of in the early days. And then he was big, you know, talking about creatures. And then I did end up getting into creatures. I chose to get into creatures instead of buying a mutant. And mutants were like 4.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I mean, again, I'm still long-term bullish on creatures.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's been
it's so hard to
one
pick.
hit after another in terms of like missed profit.
Yeah.
I also sold a Boss Beauty the day before it started pumping. It sounds like sort of like what you did with World of Women. So I took a profit on it. I did.
A phrase that's been bouncing around my head a lot lately is like infinite regret. There's just infinite regret in this space. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I know. And that's something I so appreciate about your content is you talk about that and like you'd put it in your Discord. Like if you're making money, if you're losing money, if you feel like you should be making more money, like take a deep breath. Because that was where I was, that feeling of like sometimes in these bull runs, you're like, oh, I should be making more money.
Exactly.
You know, like instead of just being grateful that I'm making money at all.
Our brains are so crazy. It's just insane.
So it is. So you talk about newer projects are actually starting to do well. And obviously it's hard for a project that's sitting at 10, 20, 30 ETH to 3x or whatever it is. And I heard somebody say this, I don't get credit for this point, but in terms of looking ahead at like the Coinbase Marketplace or this expectation that I think some in the community have that we're going to have new entrants into the NFT space and that's going to be really good for NFTs. Obviously, that probably will be best for newer projects because it's unlikely that you're going to see if a ton of new entrants come in, they're probably not going to be dropping 100,000, you know, maybe even 20, 30, 40,000 dollars on these projects. Some people are going to be super rich and maybe do that. I think you see on the celebrity side, people obviously come in and it's usually a Bored Ape. But when you're talking about like everyday people entering the NFT space, you're much more likely to buy into projects that are half an ETH or more at those
those
newer
more
affordable
affordable ranges.
So that's what we might expect to pump, you know, over the course of this year as you see, if we see a bunch of new people coming into the space. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I was actually thinking and talking about the Coinbase Marketplace like just before we jumped on this call. It will be really interesting to see what happens because they're whitelisting the projects that are approved to be listed there, basically. I think because they're publicly traded, they don't want to be open like OpenSea or any other marketplace. So I think the collections that are listed are probably just going to do well, like very well. There's just so much money. There will be people that are willing to pay 50K, 100K that maybe don't want to figure out MetaMask and OpenSea and all of that. But if they can just click a button and say, hey, you know, Jimmy Fallon has an ape, you know, etc. Eminem has an ape. Okay, I'm a wealthy entrepreneur. I have millions of dollars in my Coinbase account. I want some NFT exposure. Let me just buy an ape. Cool, done. Some of that will happen. And I think that money will trickle down into other parts of the ecosystem. But you will also get, I guess I'm really interested to know how they'll treat new mints, like new projects, because that's where like sort of the new retail investors are going to be most attracted to, because the price is cheaper and the upside is just more is greater, but also just the fun aspect. Like people enjoy minting because you get to see your rarity and the reveal, and you don't get that if it's just secondary market activity. And I haven't heard anything about whether they'll be launching projects from the Coinbase Marketplace or they'll only have existing projects. And like if a project mints out, will it just immediately be able to be listed on Coinbase, or will it have to go through an application process and take weeks? Because like a lot of the activity we see with hyped projects is that they mint out and then everyone just rushes to OpenSea or now LooksRare just to trade and snipe, and just that's where all the activity happens. If that can't happen on Coinbase, it's really going to be a hindrance, I think, for those new market participants.
Yeah, it seems like they're still sorting a lot of that out. I talked to a project founder whose project is listed on Coinbase, and I was asking what that process was, and they were like, it was weird. Like sort of, you know, like it was like I emailed somebody and then there was back and forth. Like there isn't, I was expecting there would be like, hey, you go to this link.
A better onboarding process.
Have your project on there, but it seemed a kind of a lot more chaotic than that. So I feel like it hasn't even been sorted out in in terms of how to get your project listed.
Probably
Maybe
explains
more
the
insight than I
delay.
do, but yeah. In terms of the
launch,
V1 of this, so broadly, and down the line, how projects get listed, it feels like they're not even at the first phase of that process, like fully kind of sorted out. You mentioned LooksRare. Any thoughts on Looks? Are you staking? What's your
Yes, I mean, full
Looks?
disclosure, I was a strategic investor, so I have tokens vested for 6 months that are earning trading rewards. And aside from that, from the airdrop, I've staked everything. Yeah.
I suspected that when you came on to do the predictions episode, you hinted that there were some new marketplaces that you thought would be even better than Coinbase in terms of their capacity to challenge OpenSea. So when this happened, I was like, I wonder if Zeneca.
Yeah. I'm excited for it
about this.
because obviously competition is good. OpenSea has issues. Understandably, it's an enormous platform that's had to deal with scaling issues and growing pains. But clearly, the market was like looking for an alternative. And if anything, hopefully, it forces OpenSea to just be better and improve. And
absolutely,
So LooksRare it's not the best marketplace yet. It has UI issues. It has some bugs. There's features missing. There are features that are added, like the collection bids. That's really cool. I love that. There's the whole wash trading thing going on at the moment, which people are saying, arguing whether it's a good thing or not. I think that the team has sort of said it'll sort itself out, which I think it will too.
Explain that. I haven't been tracking that.
Yeah, so I don't know 100% of the details. I haven't really probably researched it, but basically each day the trading fees, so they take 2% on every trade, that goes into a pool, which is then redistributed to the participants who have staked or traded or something. And what people realized was that if they just execute huge trades, so like literally I saw like a 14,000 ETH trade for a Meebit the other day because there's 0% royalties on the actual Meebit. So you're seeing these collections that have 0% creative royalties. So they're saying, okay, we'll pay the 2%, but our account will, lodge this enormous amount of activity so that we'll get a higher share of the rewards pool. And yeah, the way it's sort of working out is that currently the people that are doing the wash trading are making a bit of money, but more and more people are now, like we're only like 3 days in, but more people are trying to do it as well. And they're sort of competing with one another, and it'll sort of reach an equilibrium state where it's no longer profitable for them to do it. And especially as regular marketplace activity increases as well, the wash trading will be a smaller percentage. So it's just an interesting economic thing happening, and like free market thing happening where we're like realizing, in real time what's going on. I think the team has handled it well. They've addressed it. They've even before they launched, I think they had like a thing on their website saying, what if there's wash trading? And they explained how it'll sort itself out, or that they'll look at it. Yeah. So I mean, I'm again generally bullish on LooksRare. I think it'll carve out at the very least a niche. If for nothing else, then like the 0% fee on private sales. Like that's something that a lot of people hate with OpenSea. Like if you want to sell something privately, why are we paying OpenSea 2.5% for? And that's why people go to things like SudoSwap or NFT Trader and other sites. If LooksRare can just be like a cleaner, better UI for that, that'll be great. But I think it'll capture some non-insignificant amount of market share over the medium to long term, hopefully.
Yeah, to your point about it driving OpenSea to be better and competition is just good. I mean, I was sort of looking at something talking about the similarities between this and the Uniswap SushiSwap moment in time, and learning a little bit about a vampire attack, I think is what this is called.
Pretty
like
much,
directly going for OpenSea's
airdrop and
user
then,
base by directly airdropping OpenSea users tokens. For folks who don't know, SushiSwap, when they launched to compete with Uniswap, they basically said we'll give Sushi tokens to anybody who stake their Uniswap LP tokens in SushiSwap. So again, very directly targeting that one monopolistic, somewhat competitor. And I'm not on the DeFi side, but I use Uniswap and SushiSwap a little bit. And again, it's great if you have somebody who's challenging you to be better. Obviously, both platforms are still around, Uniswap and SushiSwap, and in theory, they make each other better. So I think that's a good take. I agree. There's some UI stuff. Like I'm like buy now and sort by ascending, which is like just my daily life. Is
we need
come
that.
On. It's not up to snuff yet.
I get one interesting note about the SushiSwap Uniswap thing is SushiSwap literally just like forked the contracts. They're like, we just copy paste. Because they can do that. But with the marketplace, obviously they didn't want to just copy OpenSea because there's a lot of things that they want to fix. I think with SushiSwap, they had like issues with the management or the way it was running, or they had better ideas, and they're like, hey, we can do what you do with better, lower fees or something. With LooksRare, they just built it from the ground up. But yeah, again, it takes time to figure out the kinks and stuff. Hopefully they do. Yeah.
Everyone is talking about the metaverse these days, and we're all still trying to figure out what it actually is, because everyone is looking for how to get exposure to it. That is why a metaverse index fund is so important, because in such a young market, an index can give you broad exposure to all the various players who are building out all these digital worlds that will ultimately become the metaverse. And that's why you should check out the Metaverse Index from the Index Co-op. The Metaverse Index gives you simple, easy, and safe one-click exposure to the emerging open metaverse trend. The MVI Index contains some of the biggest metaverse projects out there, including AXIE Infinity, Decentraland, Illuvium, and more. So join thousands of holders who have already trusted nearly $50 million to the MVI Index. And if you buy $500 of MVI on the Dharma app, you can receive $50 worth of ETH on the Polygon network. There's a link in the show notes for you to click so you can get started on your journey into the metaverse. Unstoppable Domains is the #1 provider of NFT domains. With domains ending in .crypto, .x, or .nft, Unstoppable Domains lets you replace your long, complex wallet address with a human-readable address. Using Unstoppable, you can verify the ownership over your NFTs, log into Web3 apps, and join tens of thousands of people using them as their Twitter usernames. With Unstoppable Domains, you can have all of your crypto addresses registered to one single domain. So it doesn't matter where crypto payments are coming from or where they're going. By registering all of your crypto addresses to your Unstoppable domain, all of that is taken care of in the back end. Better yet, with Unstoppable Domains, you don't have to worry about gas costs or renewal fees because you own it. Buy your domain and you can show it off as your new Twitter username. So you can get your name for as low as $5 at unstoppabledomains.com.
I want to close with this, which is you and I were chatting a little bit yesterday, and I know you and I both are Book Games token holders, right? Garyvee has done this Book Games NFT project, but you said you haven't really been tracking it. You don't really know what's going on with it. I have been the other end of the spectrum, which is like borderline addicted to it.
You're playing the games.
I'm trying to wean myself off of. Yeah, I don't know if I'm playing the right version of the games.
What is the game? Please tell me.
Okay. Game does feel like maybe the wrong term. It's no wolf game, that's not like that kind of a thing, but there is a component, I suppose. It feels like a game in that I'm addicted to it. Okay, I'm going to give a little background context for people who maybe know nothing about this. The short of it is Gary Vaynerchuk back in the fall or summer or something around then announced that he had a new book coming out, and that if you pre-ordered 12 copies of his book, you would be entitled to an NFT that he would be launching what turned out to be this month in January. And there was no limit to how many you could buy. For every 12 books you bought, you would get an NFT. And he was hyping it up in his very Gary Vaynerchuk way, you're not buying enough. He's like on a YouTube stream, like telling everybody that they need to be buying more of these things and like calling out specific individuals that he's like, I know you've got money, buy more, right? And obviously, given the success of VeeFriends, I think there was a lot of okay, done. Like you say buy, you say jump, I'll jump, Gary. I certainly, sort of am one of those people. I've done very well in VeeFriends, so I feel very grateful to Gary for that. So, but and so I think he ended up selling like 1.5 million copies of his book.
So amazing.
Which is like Obama territory in terms of how many copies of a book have been sold. But then, of course, I think you would fear a little bit on the buyer's side of, oh my gosh, there's going to be 125,000 tokens released. How are you going to make 125,000 tokens valuable? Gary had this sort of good one-liner about, supply is only a problem if demand's a problem. As long as I can generate enough demand, then supply doesn't matter. But again, sort of a lot of open questions about how this was going to be handled. He spent the last couple months teasing this idea of book games, and now we finally have some insight into what this is. So basically, these 125,000 tokens function to some extent like a currency in this marketplace he's set up on the VeeFriends website. You can burn book tokens in exchange for other things that exist on this marketplace. Right now, it's a lot of NFTs, trading cards. He's got a World of Women, for example, that you can buy World of Women NFTs by burning your book tokens, or creature NFTs or curios or wrap strikers, et cetera, et cetera. Same with trading cards. He also is selling some VCon 2022 tickets you can buy a ticket by burning your book tokens. He's teased, again in his Gary Vaynerchuk way, like down the line it'll be things, because he keeps saying book games are played forever. So this is intended to be a very long-term thing. He's teased, there'll be courtside tickets at NBA games, like all sorts of different wild experiences that will be exchangeable, tradable for burning. There is this other component to it, which is he's said book games tokens are the only way you'll be able to get onto like a pre-mint list for VFriends Series 2, which he says is probably coming out in April or May, sometime in the spring of this year. And so book game tokens don't guarantee you'll get onto the pre-mint list, but having them is the only way to get on. So this is something, floor price right now for these book game tokens are sitting around 1.6, I think, which
0.16, yeah.
0.16.
125,000
would be what?
1 point. That's like pack level stuff.
Yeah, that would be wild. There have been many that have, there's some of the super rare ones have been going for, the highest sale I saw was 63 ETH.
Jeez.
Somebody paid.
Wow.
And so somebody paid like $330 for 12 books and just sold something for 63 ETH.
This space is amazing.
This space is amazing. I was not lucky enough to get any particularly rare ones. But so they're sitting around 0.16 ETH, still pretty good given that you probably, including tax, whatever, paid a little north of $300 for these. So the kind of least rare ones are sitting at that level. But so that'll be the only way in order to get into this pre-mint list for VFriend Series 2. And then there's the piece that I feel like is what has just ensnared me and why I'm addicted, which is there's a somewhat complex rarity scheme to these, but it's simple to learn. It's just there's kind of a lot. So each of these NFTs is sort of like a painting in that it has a frame, a mat, and then an image. And each of those three components have different rarities, and so it creates a whole bunch of different rarity combinations. And you buy and sell these on Token Trove, which is an immutable X marketplace. Also a very imperfect marketplace.
Yeah.
Which just like glitches and lags. And sometimes I just like can't update prices to my things. But it has no gas fees.
Yeah.
And this has been the thing that has ensnared me as somebody who's been like deep in this and has a pretty has started to develop a good feel for the rarities like on site because I kind of know them well now. I feel like, and some still to be seen a little bit, I guess, on this. Like I feel like I can kind of spot an underpriced one kind of quickly. And so I've become very addicted to snagging what I see as underpriced book games tokens. And I've done some immediate flipping. Some I think I'll be able to flip, if prices go up a little bit on this, which I think they will. And because there's no gas fees, this is like a frictionless experience for me. There's nothing keeping me from doing this. And I'll probably come back to you in like 3 months and be I have been whatever. I've been bankrupted by book games.
Or you'll be just a book game mogul and you'll just
I'll be my trouble is, again, because I'm kind of a cheapskate, so like the biggest gains in this space are always made by buying the kind of higher end things. But I never want to put like 3 ETH, 7 ETH. Like I never want to put that much down.
I'm the same.
Because and so then I never end up, when that 7 ETH thing goes to 100 ETH or whatever. I haven't had that. But anyway, that's the book games. That's what's going on with it. Again, not really, more of like an exchange marketplace thing, not a game. But I am finding a game component in this.
You're finding your own
game. Rarity schema.
Yeah.
I've made my own game out of this experience.
That's really cool. I had no idea about the marketplace and how you could, there's a currency I have some books as well, but I haven't really done anything with them. Yeah, I think it's very confusing for someone on the outside who doesn't, even if like someone who has books to understand and like figure it out, it takes a little while. And but it sounds sounds great.
Absolutely is.
Yeah.
I give Gary a lot of credit. I think he's doing he's trying a lot of innovative things in this space.
Yeah.
It's absolutely complicated. And God bless his team who like puts out a ton of information about this. Like they do what they can to educate people and get but at the end of the day, this space is so crowded. Like it's confusing.
It's
and
so
you're bouncing
confusing.
from the VFriends website marketplace to Token Trove.
Yeah.
You have to set up an immutable X wallet.
It's so difficult. But yeah, honestly, like the information and like education he tries to spread is just since day one, like onboarding people to buy the VFriends. It's just been, I think his impact on the space is most people don't appreciate it. And it's enormous. Yeah. In a positive way. He's
a relentless person. Like, God, do I wish I had a fraction of his energy.
It's insane. He's just 24/7 on. I remember I heard from a few people that during I think it was the VFriends launch or something, they DM'd him on Twitter and he just replied. And it's like, he's launching this thing. He's got millions of followers and he's just replying around them like support requests and stuff. It's like insane.
Yeah. Well, and I think the last thing I'll say on it is that I do tend to be like a bet on the team kind of a person, but there are very smart people who won't end up being able to make a lasting NFT project. And Gary is somebody I believe in because I do think he has such a track record. And he is so vocal and out there visibly in a way that makes you at least feel like you get a sense of him.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I kind of know him.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I do trust his ability to understand what needs to be done here to make a really lasting NFT project. So that's the other reason I feel like I'm willing to go a little crazier than I usually do.
Yeah.
You know, trading is I do think that in the long term he'll create more value for these. And he's been explicit saying the floor price is too low.
Yeah.
And I trust him when he says that, because he's tended to be right on VFriends when he said that. And he actually he said when it launched, he thought the floor price would probably be between like $400 and $700. He nailed that.
Yep.
And then when it was that, he was like, but I think it will go higher when I announce V Series 2 or this and that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Here we are.
Bullish on Gary.
Bullish on Gary for sure. And you bought a Flyfish Club
I did.
membership.
I bought 3 actually. So much for the same reasons. Betting on people and betting on Gary. I think he is obviously incredibly smart and hardworking. He knows business, he knows marketing, he knows all of this stuff, and he knows NFTs. Also, his reputation matters, and to him, like he's basically just not going to let these fail. He's going to do everything in his power to make anyone that sort of took a leap of faith, who bet on him, who invested in him and his ideas. He wants to make everyone money, and he wants to make everyone successful, and he wants to grow the space as well. Yeah, so with the Flyfish Club, I'm a huge foodie, and I think the idea is really interesting, merging restaurants with membership tokenizations for reservation. I don't actually fully understand how it works yet. Like, it was sort of just, it popped up, it was on my radar. I was like, this is something I definitely want to be a part of. Yeah, so they have 2 different membership tiers, like the Flyfish tier and then the Omakase tier, which is like whatever the higher one. And so my plan was to mint whatever I could, because it was like a gas war and difficult, and then flip them. And then I figured, because the restaurant's not going to be built for like a year and a half or something, people are going to lose interest. They're going to want liquidity elsewhere. Prices will tank. The bear market will hit, and then I'll buy them again. What ended up happening was I minted 2 of the Flyfish ones. I didn't get any of the Omakase ones. I was feeling the FOMO as I saw them like getting picked up on secondary, and like the supply is low, so the number list for sale was reducing. I was like, all right, I got to get one of those. I ended up just buying one, and I'm holding all 3 now. So I'm just, my plan went awry. I guess if prices really rocket, I will sell 1 or 2 of the originals, but because, again, I'm a foodie, I'm a huge fan of Garyvee, I want to keep the Omakase one just for personal use.
Yeah. If a bear market hits and they go down, I will buy one, because I was looking at them. Again, I couldn't even bring myself to pay the 2.5 ETH in one shot. I'm like, I'm just not rich enough to give up that much ETH in one shot at this point. But I am based in New York City and would love to, like, I had FOMO looking at it while I was not buying it. It was just like, God, I want to go. And so if prices fall, if people do forget about it and that plays out, I will probably buy into one. Oh, I was just going to say on the reputation front, I think you nailed exactly why I believe in Gary too, is I think he is somebody for whom his reputation honestly matters to him more than money.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something I see in you. I feel it myself. Like, that's true for me as a person, where it's like, I'd rather, and I think that's kind of a real key distinction between influencers I trust and I think influencers who end up, there's been kind of scandals in the market this last couple weeks that I think are an indication of people or project owners or people who kind of cared more about the short-term financial win than building their long-term reputation. And I think looking for that and spotting that is like one of the key things when you're figuring out who to trust. Yeah,
who to trust and people and projects to invest in. It all comes down to people, I think, at the end of the day. Everything in this space in life, it's look at people. That's how you make the best decisions, I think. Talk to people as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, a beautiful way to close this moment.
Talk to people.
Talk to people. It's all about people.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We are doing this regularly, so you will be back to share your thoughts on what's happening probably in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I am so grateful to you coming on, listening, sharing your wisdom with the space as always, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully it's a bull market in a couple of weeks still. That would be great.
Yeah, hopefully we're still all just a little bit richer.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.